Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second introductory session on Gender and Climate Change Editathon for the Women and Climate Change event running during the month of December co-hosted by Wikidona, Wikimedia Foundation's Sustainability Consortia, and supported by community groups, including the Wikimedia for Sustainable Development, Women in Red, Wikimedistas de Uruguay, and GLAM Macedonia. Today I'm going to do a brief introduction to editing for these topics, and I hope if you are watching that if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And if there's not a lot of newcomers, if we don't get some new editors showing up soon, I will mostly focus on why this editathon and what, and then you can refer to the earlier video today if you need instructions on editing, which we will share in the chat. To get started, welcome. I see we only have a few folks in the stream. I will put this in preventer mode. So we're editing on women and climate. If you need support during the week or during today, or you're on WMS staff, you can use the internal Slack, or if you're in the community, there is a Wikimedians for Sustainable Development Telegram channel where you can find supporters throughout the movement. We are encouraging folks to edit on women, gender, and climate as part of our quarterly editing activities supported by the Wikimedia Sustainability Consortia, multiple sustainabilities here. I apologize for a colleague who wanted to give some of the training and support, so I'm subbing in for her today, but we do these each quarter to kind of help Wikimedia Foundation staff and community members talk and think about different subtopics around sustainability in our content. If you attended our talk yesterday or you listened to Dr. Johnson and Rosie Stephenson Goodnight interview each other or talk to each other yesterday about women in the climate movement, you'll know that women are really at the forefront of science and activism in the global climate movement, and this is really important. And so in covering them on Wikipedia and other communication platforms are really important as well. And we know too that women from the Global South and marginalized communities are often at the front of real local action and climate justice, calls for climate justice, which makes documenting their stories even more important, because as they advocate for these communities, it's important to have kind of a point of reference. Who's doing what where. We also know that members of these women activists, these women leaders, and members of the youth who are involved in these communities are being cut from many of the conversations in the global climate movement. This happens by momentum and institutional communication throughout the kind of global communication spaces. So it's really important that, for example, when Vanessa Nakate was cropped out of the World Economic Forum photo by the AP earlier this year, it was really just not a good conversation. If you haven't heard about this, I suggest you go read. But we also know that women, like the places of power and structure and negotiation at the international scale, need more women leadership throughout the space. And this was a recent open letter by organizers related to the upcoming Council of Parties meeting in the UK that was supposed to be happening this weekend, but is instead happening a year from now because of COVID. So they're asking for more women leadership in this space. So we are supporting this editathon with these community groups and Wikidona as a way to contribute to filling that gap And since we don't have many inexperienced editors in the call, and I'm not seeing many folks on the stream at the moment, there's 3 people watching. I recommend, unless you wave your hand in the stream and say, I'm new, I need the full introduction to new editing, I recommend our earlier video, which can be found at this YouTube link, where I go through the basic introduction to editing, and I'm going to drop that in the stream as well. That will give you kind of an introduction on how to start editing. What I will focus on is the bits and pieces that are really important for this editathon. So first, please sign up for the event by going to edit source and adding yourself with a asterisk and 4 tildes. And I'll drop that in both the chats. So asterisk and 4 tildes. That allows the software to put a signature, and you can show preview to make sure it's working. For example, you just saw that. Lydia, were you asking a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, can you drop the link for the first session in the Zoom too?
Oh yeah, I can drop that in the Zoom, and there's the event page. So there's that, and there's the event page. Yeah, so you can sign up. Make sure you save by pressing publish. There, that keeps track of who's participating in this event as part of Wikidona and the Sustainability Consortia. And then and when you make edits, make sure to report what pages you work on this page, which is the results page tab. The reason we aren't using a tracking tool like the Programs and Events dashboard or others is because this is mostly focused on experienced editors, and the tracking tools we have don't do a good job tracking people on multiple languages. So that's something I work on in my day job, but we're not using that now. But I did want to walk through the suggested actions and show one of those actions that I recommend for everyone to get involved in this event. So we have 3 recommended actions here. For new editors, we recommend that you add citations and expand our existing articles, and I'll show one of those right now in a few minutes. For multilingual editors, we set up the Wikigap Finder, and I'll spend a moment kind of walking through that to show for translation. So if you're interested in translating content, we recommend that you kind of do that. It's a great tool, and it helps you filter through biographies. Or if you're looking at writing a new article in English or Italian, we have some lists of articles, and we also have Wikidata-driven lists for many of the major languages in the community down here below, if you're just interested in writing a new article. So I wanted to show what it looks like to expand an article really quick so that you can see a good example of this. So the book that Dr. Johnson recently published, All We Can Save, is an anthology that has a bunch of women climate writers in it, but many of their biographies don't either talk about the book or connect them with the climate movement. For example, earlier today, this fashion model, who's one of the authors, did not have a section about her climate advocacy in the Wikipedia article yet, so I added that earlier. I'll show you kind of how I found one of these. So this one of the activists, Zia Bastida, doesn't have a ton of, there's lots of gaps in her biography, including that she was a contributor to this book. And so one of the opportunities now is to go to find a reliable source, like say the book page, and note that she is a contributor to the book, and add a sentence or two to her biography. For example, that's her first name, Bastida, Interesting. So someone was writing about her in her first name, which is very unusual. It should be last name. Bastida contributed to the collection of women writers about climate change, all we can save.
Question,
And
Alex.
yeah.
What dictates when, and I think her last name, I have a typo in your sentence and the one prior. Is it Bastida or Bastada?
It's like Bastida, yes.
Yes. What dictates when you decide to spin up a new section versus just adding a sentence here? Like in the other example that you showed, it had like other notable work or something.
Yeah, so this, I would actually probably create a section here, and then focus this on early life. If I, yeah, as I'm kind of rewriting the article, right? Because these first couple paragraphs are really just about her early life and family, right? And like most of the time, you don't, like, this section was too long. It had too many paragraphs and it had too many things going on. Sometimes you might make it a lower level heading. Like you might do something like that, where you drop it from a heading level 2 to heading level 3 or subheading 1. And what this does is it kind of says, oh, the activism is part of early life, but her activism is fairly distinct, and follows from her like leadership in the New York area when she got a little bit older. So I think, and I know something about her from previous reading and stuff. So I actually think that we should have more of a section here, and then kind of move her education stuff up here. So probably early life and education is more normal on English Wikipedia. And like I might, Bastida attended so I might kind of do a little bit of repetition, but also do that in a way that kind of separates out that information in a way that's easier for a reader. You add sections as you would kind of anticipate gaps for readers. So that's kind of the approach. Does that answer your question, Lydia?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And the more you read biographies, the more you know what sections to expect. And many other genre of article, like beaches or cities or buildings, have kind of expected sections. So you kind of start reading for that too as you become an editor. And then the main thing that we want all editors to do in this event is like create content that sticks. And on Wikipedia, sticky content includes citations. And so I encourage you to add a citation when you are making edits like this. For example, you click here on the cite button, drop a URL into this automatic generator. And if it doesn't work, manually fill out one of these citation forms. So add as much information as you can, like you would if you were citing a paper in another place. But I want an automatic citation for this. Adding a citation to the book, insert, formatting the title for the book, the italics, and then save. And that's a successful edit. Adding a connection to anthology of women writers. This is a great kind of small action that you can do, but this biography has a lot of gaps, and I know she has many more interviews. So I actually just a little bit earlier found some interviews with her. For example, this one from KCET, which is public television, I think. They talk a lot more about like her family, like upbringing and the culture from which her community comes from, and like her relationship to Mexico City's kind of environmental issues related to water and land subsidence. And so these kinds of things actually might be really important to have in her article, and they're not really highlighted here. Her experience in New York City is mostly what's being focused on here. So there's an opportunity for that work. So we invite folks to make those kinds of edits. There are a couple lists here, both of the Women in Climate Change article, which has a lot of women biographies on it, that list of authors for this book series. And then there are links to Citation Hunt. For example, this helps you find for example, Naomi Klein has a citation needed here, and the tool is kind of focused on environmentalists and climate activists. And so if you find one that you think you can fix, you go, I got this. It'll take you to the section that you want to work on, and you can click, you can add a citation there in the visual editor. If you are multilingual, I again highly recommend that you use these links to find biographies if you're not kind of immediately excited about one of the biographies down here. So this is a tool, Wikigap Finder, which was built for Wikigap to help folks find biographies. And it uses a seed article, so in this case, Greta Thunberg, to suggest other potential articles to work on. Greta, there are 3 links there because when you search for Greta, you tend to get popular people out there in the world. When you search for the Women in Climate Change article as the seed, you tend to get more activists and politicians involved in climate communication and stuff. And then if you use the one that starts with global warming, you tend to get more scientists because of the seed. And so, and you can change which language you're moving into, or if you want to do it in the other direction, you can. So those are the various actions we are encouraging everyone to take. And if you're an experienced editor, there's lots of red lists here for women in the climate and environmental science space. And yeah, so I hope this helps everyone who's watching. There's a few people on the stream and a few folks in the room. And like I said, there's that earlier earlier introduction that talks why we had citations and notability policy and how we got to that. So are there any questions on the call or on the YouTube channel? Anne or Lydia?
Nothing for me.
Excellent. Hi, Anne. Was this a useful introduction?
For me, it was. It's always helpful. I always appreciate those starter kind of lists that you put together to kind of give us an idea of where to begin. And, you know, my go-to is the Citation Hunt tool. So.
Yeah, it's great. And I think like because of the recentness of the All We Can Save book, many of these biographies are kind of underdeveloped or not connected yet with that. So that's a really great action as well. And like some of these, like the Cameron Russell one, like it was almost entirely focused on her fashion model experience and said nothing about her climate advocacy or politics, which was kind of amazing to me because she actually does have quite a high profile kind of democratic and climate politics space. Also, this article about the book, All We Can Save, could use some work too. So I hope everyone, yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Nothing else for me. Thank you, Alex.
Excellent. Well, I think we will stop recording. since we have a good, strong recording earlier too that answered some more questions. So we have plenty of documentation for folks who want to get engaged.